Hello, Hanson students. This is Luki, your career coach, and I wanted to share some resume creation guidance for you. I wanted to break it up into three parts. First of all, what you need to do before you even start writing your resume. The second part are basics on how to get your resume started. And the third is leveling it up and making your resume awesome and getting you a lot of interviews. So before you start start writing your resume, what I encourage you to do is figure out, well, what sort of job are you even in the market for? So going online on Indeed or LinkedIn or things like that, and finding a job description based on the type of role that you're looking for, and looking at the responsibilities and the qualifications and all of the bullet points out there and seeing what are they looking for. And then looking back and reflecting on your schoolwork, your volunteer, any part-time jobs, or anything that you've been doing, and what sort of matches do they have. And if you're finding that there are a lot of different gaps in terms of what they're asking for and what you've done, then going out there and getting some of those experiences. So first of all, you need to have some experience to write about before you can even put on your resume. And what you want to do is, even if you don't have that experience right now, is to start. So enroll in some online classes if your core programming doesn't have it, or maybe volunteer somewhere, or maybe do a personal project or something that would get you some more experience in order to get you closer to that job. The second part are the basics in terms of getting your resume started. So there are many templates out there. You can go on Google Docs, you can go on Microsoft Word, and if you type in resume, there'll be all sorts of different templates around. You can just go on general Google and search a little bit, and they'll share a whole bunch of Word documents or other things that you can edit and build your resume. And what you're looking for is, you don't need anything too fancy. You just want something that's a little bit clean, right? And what I mean by clean is it's consistent. It's not too crazy with too many different colors and whatever, but it's something that can outline. And most of the default templates are good enough for you to take a look at. And what you want to start is with your contact information. Basic things like your name. You want it to be a little bit bigger than everything else. You definitely want to have your email address and your phone number so that they can contact you. For a lot of folks, I encourage you to include your LinkedIn, right? So this is where other people can look at your profile online and find other information about you as well. And actually, an optional thing is your address. Depending on the type of job, you might just want to put Toronto, Canada, instead of having your full address. But if you're comfortable in putting your full home address, then you can do that as well. So the contact information goes in the top, either centered in the middle or kind of left and right aligned, just to have a little bit of balance on the document. And then it's either education or experience. And which one first? Well, whichever is the most relevant. So for those of you who have some work experience and some of the stuff that you've done is relevant, then put that first, right? Even if it's from a different country of origin or somewhere else, you could start with that. Or if you feel that your education is better, then you can put that in. Generally speaking, Canadian folks like to see Canadian things first. So for the most part, unless you have some local experience, part-time work that is Canadian, you probably want to start with your education first. And you want to put your institute, the program that you're studying, and you want to put the date. You want to put the month and the anticipated date of graduation so that folks can know when you're going to be available. And when you put in your experience, you want to put information about the company. You want to put your title. You want to put your month starting and your year as well, and your month and year of ending as well for any particular one. And you definitely need to put in the months, mainly because if you don't include the months, then your employer or potential future employer will think that you're trying to hide something. So make sure you put in the months, because there's a big difference between January 2018 to December 2019 to versus December 2018 to January 2019, right? One of them is almost 24 months. The other one is really only 2 months, and possibly even 2 days if it was kind of December 31st to January 1st. But still, the dates would have been 2018 to 2019. So make sure you include the months. And then what you want to do is basically double check, right? Spelling, grammar. Ask a friend who is very fluent who is a native speaker if possible. And if not, get at least 2 or 3 friends just to review it based on the spelling and grammar only, right? And what you want to do is make sure that the formatting still stays clean. And what I mean by clean is that all the bullet points are nicely aligned, all of the dates are nicely aligned, and everything looks like in its proper place. Because when bullets are misaligned or things are a different font and things look a little bit different, then what happens is the recruiter thinks that there's something wrong. It's like if you've ever been to a grocery store and you had to buy a bunch of fruit. Like if you're going to pick up an apple, you look at it, look around, and if there's any bruises or blemishes, then you put it back, right? Whereas you actually don't know that one with the bruise or blemish might be the sweetest apple there is. So just like an apple, when a recruiter looks at a resume, they'll see, okay, is anything misaligned? Is anything misspelled? Because there's so many other apples in this bunch that I can easily put it away and look at another one. So making sure that you double check. And a couple of things that you want to consider that should not be on your resume are things like pictures. So in Canada, there's no pictures that are expected on a resume, no birth dates or family relations or blood types or things like that. So nothing more personal than your contact information and your address. That's about as personal as you would get. No tables. So some conventions are putting like a table type format. And the reason you don't have that is sometimes that confuses the applicant tracking systems, the ATS systems. So you don't want to necessarily have them. You actually don't need information about the company. So even though you put the name of the company, you don't have to tell about what it is that the company does. You want to tell what you did at the company. And maximum 2 pages. A resume actually means summary in French. So you only want a maximum of 2 pages in there. So that's the basics of a resume. And with that resume, ideally, you can accompany it with a cover letter, right? And a cover letter is one where you kind of put some context around all the experience that you've had on your resume, and you tell the recruiter, you tell the hiring manager why you would want them to hire you. That's in addition and above and beyond what you did on your resume. And one simple guideline that I have is imagine that you somehow got into the company. You have your resume in your hand and the hiring manager, your potential future boss, is in front of you, and you have about 1 minute to tell them why they should hire you. And if you hand them that resume, you want them to grab it. So what should you tell them? You shouldn't use the templated, "Dear sir or madam, I am applying to job blah, 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 blah." What you probably should say is, I've been interested in your company for the past few months. I've done a lot of research. I've connected with folks. I've been taking a look at volunteer initiatives. I've been tailoring myself for this. So whatever personal connection that you have to the company, the more personal you can make it, the more likely that they're going to find you to be a great fit. So if you have the option, put in a cover letter, because putting a cover letter together takes a little bit of effort, and putting in the effort makes it seem like you actually want the job. So if you have the option, even if the recruiter doesn't take a look at it, do yourself a favor and actually put in a cover letter and make it as personal as you can. When we talk about things like references, you don't have to put that little text that says references available upon request, but you need to make sure that you have references. And that could be professors, it could be coworkers. If it has to be, it could be classmates, but generally not recommended, as they're looking for people in a professional context. So if you can start volunteering and building some relationships with other professionals or doing part-time jobs or whatever, then this is where references can come in handy. Or if you can somehow convince your professors to help you out, then that could be useful as well. So that's kind of the basics of resumes, a little bit on cover letters and references. And the next step is to level up your resume. So now that you've got the basics, you've got the different sections in there, how do you make sure that it actually gets noticed and gets to the top of the pile of the resume pile? So what you want to do is to reverse engineer the job posting. So you want to take those bullets that you're writing about on the experience that you've had or in the education that you've had, and instead of just putting whatever you did there, what you want to do is match it to the job description. So you start with the job description first, you blank out the bullet points on your resume, and what you say is, in this job description for this requirement, what experience have I had best demonstrates my ability to do this? And you say, oh, okay, that was my last job here, or that was my last volunteer work, or that was my last course, or whatever it was. And you fill it in here. And then for this next bullet, what experience have I had best demonstrates my ability to do that? And then you continue on and you go down and you fill it in as much as you can. And what you're trying to do is what's called reverse engineering the job description. And by doing that, you're making yourself a great fit for what they're looking for. Because what happens sometimes is you tell the company what you want to tell them in your resume, but the job description is what they want to hear. So the more that you match with what they want to hear, the more likely that you'll be selected for an interview. So for those bullet points, the more that you can match, the better it'll be. But the next step to that is upgrading those bullets and upgrading them from activities to achievements. And the difference between the two is an activity is what you did, whereas an achievement is how well you did it. So thinking about taking a course, right? I took a course, Introduction to Economics 101, right? Whereas I took the course and I had a 95% average. Well, one is what you did, and the other is how well you did it. So I encourage you to think about those bullets and say, okay, how did I demonstrate with that bullet point that I did a good job? And it's usually one of three things: time, cost, or quality. So you did it faster than someone else, or you retained a client for longer, you increased revenue or decreased expenses, or third, you got more compliments or produced fewer errors, right? So for whatever context, usually one of those three or a combination or something slightly different will indicate whether you did a good job on it. And if you don't know, well, then it's up to you to figure out for the coming week or whenever you're starting your your work again, how can I demonstrate, or what are the expectations for me so that I can say that I've done a good job, and not just a good job, a great job. Because if you can exceed that, then you've truly demonstrated some additional value. So instead of talking about the job, you can talk about what you did and the value that you brought as well. So, and then as you're reverse engineering, what you want to do is try to think about what are any of the gaps that you have. So the responsibilities, the qualifications. Ooh, you actually don't know that technology. Well, maybe what you do is enroll in an online course. Or maybe you download it and experimented with it and then start creating something over the weekend using that technology or software or whatever. Or you talk to people who have used it and get their insights and thoughts on it. So the more that you can do to fill in the gaps, the better positioned you will be, and the higher level that your resume will be. And then what you want to do is put a reminder in your calendar every 4 months, probably every term, to update your resume with the past experience that you've had in the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Because sometimes what happens is if you wait till your final year, your final semester, then you forget what you did in your first semester, first term or whatever, because that might have been a year ago, that might have been 2 years ago for doing it. But when you update it every 4 months, things become fresh in your memory. So those are some of the basic things in order to update your resume. So the first thing is to start before you even begin writing. So having the experiences, taking a look at job description, and understanding what they want so that you can get the education or the volunteering or the work experience in order to show and demonstrate you can do the job. The second are the basics. So a nice, clean resume format using a template from Google Docs or Microsoft Word, or just one that you downloaded from the internet, picking one that suits you, but making sure that it is spelling and grammar free, and that it is consistent across from a formatting perspective. And things not to include are things like pictures and birth dates and tables and things like that. And if you have the opportunity, take a moment, take half an hour, take 15 minutes to write a cover letter. The first one will take longer, but as you get better and better, they'll get shorter and shorter. And then making sure that you have a couple of references that you can have to reach out to. And then to level it up, reverse engineer the job posting, and to upgrade your bullet points from activities to achievements. And then making sure to fill up and level up your gaps as well. And keep your resume up to date every 4 months or so. So that's some guidance that I have for you in terms of making sure that you have an awesome resume. And feel free to reach out to me if I could be of help in improving your resume and making it get you more interviews. Thanks everyone, and take care.